So for this week's STEM challenge, we are gonna make a robotic hand. So we do have kits available to pick up at both Lancaster and Kershaw, but I will also show you the things that you can use if you can't pick up a kit. You might have these things laying around your house. So you need a piece of construction paper, and you want to use like a thick piece of like cardstock type construction paper. A thin piece of like printer paper will be too thin and floppy for this, so you want something pretty thick. Some yarn and some straws. So you want to use a pretty jumbo size straw. These are called like smoothie straws, and then some normal size straws as well. And then you're going to need some scissors, a pencil, and then some glue or tape, kind of whatever you prefer. So to start off with our robotic hand, we're going to need a hand to go off of. So you can trace your own hand, or you can trace like a parent and older siblings, anything like that, if you want to use like a bigger hand. So you just want to put it down on your paper and trace it. You want to make sure when you're doing it not to do it off to the side. That way you don't have that kind of in that corner thing. You want to go straight on. So that way you're left with one that's straight. I've already traced the hand and cut it out. This is what we're going to go off of. So you just want to trace it, cut it out. So you see that our wrist is straight on instead of at a diagonal. So that's what you want to do. Next, if you borrowed somebody's hand to trace, you're going to need it one more time. If not, use your own hand. You want to put it back on that hand you cut out. And then taking your pencil, you want to mark where their knuckles are at. So you want to mark where their pinkies, like where their fingers bend. So like where this knuckle is up here, and then that center one, so where they bend at, because we're going to need that for our robotic hand. So you're just going to go through and make those little marks on each of those fingers. And then the thumb. So each of your fingers should have two little dash marks on them once you get done. So now that you have those, you want to go and fold where you marked each of those. And you want to fold them frontwards and backwards for each of those fingers. So that way they'll bend freely and move freely. Now all of our fingers are done. Should have some folds looking like that. So now it's time to add our straws. So the big straw or the smoothie straw type looking thing, if you want to use the whole thing, you can. I'm going to cut it in half because we don't really necessarily need the whole thing. And you're going to put it where your wrist is. You're going to put it down here. Now you can glue it on, tape it on, whichever you prefer. I'm just going to tape it down. Okay. And then for your normal size straws, you're going to cut them and they're going to fit in between each of the knuckles and kind of make like the bones of your hand. You can cut them down to like 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 of an inch, an inch. 2.5 inches is what the instructions say. If they're a little bit too big, just kind of measure them to what each of your knuckles are in between those folds. You don't want them to be over top of those folds because we made those so that way later our hand will bend and we can manipulate it. So we don't want to cover up those bends. So I'm just going to cut, and you just want to tape, glue them down, whichever. And you just want to fill up your entire hand with a straw, excluding where those folds are at. So I've already kind of started one over here. So you'll see that I have straws going in between, but there's all the way down that finger, but those folds are still very movable. And then down, you would put one right here to lead down into that straw, and you would do the same thing for each of those hands. Now I have one that's completely done. So you'll see, I even started putting some string in it, but like you'll see that they go all the way down into that straw. This is what I was talking about, that you didn't want to kind of like to a diagonal. It forces all of your straws to kind of then go at a diagonal, and you don't really want that. You want them to go all straight down. So once your entire hand is covered with straws, you're going to start putting some string in it. So like I said, this one I've already started to put string in, and you can see that it's still very movable in between those digits of straw. So we're gonna add some string to our last two fingers. So this is just a piece of yarn, and you're gonna thread it through. I go each little straw at a time, and then just drop it in and pull it out. And that's all you need to do. Now, if you find it really difficult to do it, or if your yarn's like this one and it's like all frayed, you can take a skewer or a toothpick, anything like that, to kind of help you, something that's really skinny like this, to help you kind of push that yarn through. Once you get it through, I do advise that when you get down, because each finger has its own piece of yarn, but all of the pieces of yarn are going to feed through this big smoothie straw type thing. So when you get there, it is easier to put all of those in at one time. So to go through and do all of your fingers to that straw, and then put all the strings through at one time, through that big straw at the bottom. All of them threaded through. You have a couple options of what you can do with the top tails up here. So you don't want to, you don't want them to fall back through. So you can either knot them a couple of different times so they don't fall through that hole of that first straw, or you can just tape them to the back, which is what I did. So I kind of did both. I put like a single knot in them, or like double knotted them. I put a knot in them, and then I taped them just to the back of the finger that they are for, just to keep them into place. And again, you could glue them, put a piece of glue back there. Whatever you're using will certainly work. So a knot and a little piece of tape, and then a second one. So now all of our fingers are done. So they're all threaded through those straws that we put in, and then all through this big straw. And then now all you do is pull on them, and they will move. Just like that. So if you did want to try to make one that's going to actually pick up something or something like that, you could do the exact same process, but with a piece of cardboard, something that's a little bit more sturdy, and do it with a piece of cardboard. And when you make those, you still make those folds and those bands, and just use something to help fold it over. So like if this was your piece of cardboard, use something and then make that indent with that item. And then do the exact same thing with the little straws and the string, everything like that, and it'll be a little bit more sturdier with the potential of picking something up. So that's how you make a robotic hand and how you could potentially make one that would pick something up. So let us see what your creations looks like.